Robyn Ferguson, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, tell me about your coronavirus situation. Where are you and what are the restrictions there at the moment?
Yeah, so in South Africa, I'm in Cape Town at the moment, most southern tip of the country. And we've just been moved down to level 3, so we're able to get around a little bit easier than what we have been. So I'm able to go for a nice walk a little bit later, which I'm quite excited about. But yeah, otherwise it's still fairly serious as everywhere in the world. So we're just trying to maintain social distancing and all of that, yeah.
So what did the virus mean to the plans that you had for 2020?
Well, it threw quite a spanner in the works. I think it did for everyone. It's been quite a mess. For me, the album was still going to come out roughly the same time. It was delayed by about 2 weeks only, and that was actually nothing to do with the virus. That was on my own side. In terms of touring, however, that's obviously impacted dramatically. I can't tour locally or internationally, and there were some plans for Africa as well as over into Europe and so on. So yeah, I mean, obviously that's thrown a little bit of a curveball. Hopefully things will just be paused and not cancelled,
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about where you grew up. Did you grow up in Cape Town? And tell me about the music that you grew up with.
Yeah, I actually grew up in the Free State, which is more central in farmlands and so on. And wasn't really exposed to too much music other than a lot of classical and a lot of Afrikaans music just because of our neighbours and such. I was the only English-speaking kid around and everybody else was Afrikaans. So it was quite an interesting mix. But then moving up from the farm to Gauteng, I obviously got exposed to a lot more. My pops has always been into a little bit of the old school rock and roll and heavy metal and so on. And then my mother was very classical and so on. So I think that's kind of where it probably started and then just evolved into what it is now,
What made you pick up the guitar and who influenced you in that direction?
Originally, I didn't think of even playing guitar. When I thought instruments, I thought, drums, that looks like something cool, I want to be a drummer. But then I realized there's too many things to carry and too many things to hit that I decided this is not for me. But I distinctly remember walking with my pops, my dad, like around the corner, and there was this guy busking, and he was just having a whale of a time, and I was just captivated, and I thought, I don't know what he's doing, what he's holding, or anything, but whatever that is, I need to have that in my life. So yeah, basically bugged my parents so much that they eventually managed to get me a damn guitar.
What was your first electric guitar?
My first electric was an Ibanez. It was a GSA 60, a very entry level one, but boy, did I play the hell out of that thing.
Yeah. So what led you down the metal prog rock road? Who were you listening to that sent you down that road?
Well, I think as an angry teenager, you want to get into like punk and all of that kind of stuff just because it's a nice way to release your your frustration, I suppose. And then I remember I was sitting with a friend of mine and he came running and he was like, dude, I just found this band. Obviously it wasn't a brand new band because, they'd been out for a while, but like it was new to us. And he's like, this is System of a Down. You have to listen to this stuff. It's crazy. So I remember listening to their albums and then just getting so into that. And then basically that just led me on this whole road to find all this weird and wonderful extreme genres, because I'd grown up with like the Ozzy Osbourne and like Def Leppard and Guns and Roses and all of that stuff. So this is a whole new take on it. And I was like, what am I hearing? So that led me to explore a lot. And at the same time, I think I had a couple of friends who were also playing a bit of instruments, so we started jamming. I then landed up the garage band turned into something a bit more serious eventually. Went from a punk band and eventually evolved into a bit of a symphonic metal band with a lot of orchestral stuff where, and from there wanted something a bit more challenging, I guess, guitar-wise. And then it just naturally progressed that way. And I mean, growing up with the greats, you start listening to Randy Rhoads and Vi and Satriani, and you start going down that road, Malmsteen and all of that. So I think it just like naturally got that way. And then of recent years, I've been looking for a different challenge, and I enjoy shred guitar, but sometimes it's a bit monotonous and then melodic, and sometimes it's too soft, So I smash the two together and kind of enjoy a bit of both worlds.
Yeah. So some of those bands that you mentioned, did they come to town? Were you able to see any of those acts?
Yeah, some big guys that have come to town that I was able to watch, and from the crowd, being guys like Iron Maiden, they came a few years ago. Metallica's been here, Guns N' Roses, and so there's been like a few big ones. And then bands that I've been fortunate enough to tour with have been guys like Cannibal Corpse, Flesh God Apocalypse, Cataclysm. Epica was quite a cool one at the time because I was doing the symphonic thing, so that was pretty rad. And then also the more mod players, like or the more genty prog guys, being Periphery and like Norma Jean, Tesseract, that kind of stuff. So they've come to town, and I've seen them and been fortunate to play on a couple of those lineups as well. So yeah, it's been great.
What's the prog rock scene like in South Africa?
Quite small, I would say. The alternative scene is in general quite small, yeah. So when you go into the subgenres, it narrows down quite a bit. But there's a fair following. Our biggest problem here is that we are limited in venues, so places to. And then what happens is the big bands play quite regularly, so it's like the same thing. And then I suppose maybe people get a bit bored. So what's fun about the prog side is you never know what you're going to get at the show. It's always going to be interesting. It's always going to be different. There is no box. So however I feel like doing it, surprise. And I think that's what encourages people to come around a bit more, So I'd say it's growing.
What kind of venues are you able to play at? What sort of numbers fit into the clubs that you play?
Locally, the clubs are very small. You'll be lucky if you can get 1,000 to 2,000 people in. Like it's not very big,
yeah,
but when you do fill out the place, yeah, on average, I think a standard Friday night, Saturday night, like that's been building up end of the month. You'll pull like maybe 200, 300 people. So it's small numbers, but luckily they die hard and you get to know everybody in the scene. What's cool though is that I've been fortunate enough to not only do South Africa, but a little further as well. And that's where obviously the numbers start growing and it's a bit more popular and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what other places have you played?
Mostly in Africa. I've had a couple really, really awesome shows in Africa. My biggest being in Angola. That was to a big festival with 24,000 odd open air vibes. That was huge fun. It was a lot of fun, actually. And everyone thought that we were mad. So there's a big festival that happens in South Africa once a year called Opikopi. And it's like the biggest music fest, one of the biggest local music festivals with 1 or 2 internationals that headline. And there's maybe 5,500 to 6,000 people at a time. And we were supposed to play that event. Originally, we thought we would gun for that. And then we had this opportunity to go to Angola. Everyone thought we were mad. And obviously, the reward was great because it was a fantastic show. Botswana, Mozambique. I've been up to Kenya for the Nairobi Guitar Festival. I held a guitar clinic there with some wonderful, wonderful people. So yeah, there's been a fair amount of travel around.
Yeah, your solo career is fairly young. It's only been 2 or 3 years, I believe. You have played in bands, Adorned in Ash and Sisters of Metal, or a couple of bands you've played with. Are you now just a solo artist, or do you think you could go back to playing in bands as well?
as long as I'm on stage, it doesn't really matter. I just enjoy being, just playing music. I enjoy learning from people as well. So being in a band is kind of cool, but there are some limitations as well. So we'll see where it goes. Sisters of Metal have always just sort of been, we play 1 to 2 shows a year. It's a group of musicians that we all play in different bands in different sessions, and then the girls all get together and then we'll perform a show. So it's like a super group, if you wish. At Dawn in Ash, we've been going for quite a while, and we're on a bit of on a slow at the moment, so a little hiatus because our guitarist has had a child and coronavirus, and I've moved and solo stuff. So we were kind of like venturing off. But ultimately, I'm always stoked to either be with an act, have an act with me, be solo, whatever, as long as there's music and cool people.
I should point out to viewers that quite often when you're playing, it's through hardship. You have a condition that you suffer that affects your playing. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's been something I've been living with for quite some time, but it only really became apparent or a big problem last year. So last year I collapsed, and it was a whole lengthy process and very serious. I'm on the recovery now again, but I have a disease that will stay with me. So it's a degenerative neurotransmitter disease. Meaning that, in short, my brain doesn't always talk with parts of my body, and in particular with my left side. So sometimes I have no feeling in my foot, or like it's kind of random. But the thing that's been constant, particularly over the last year, is lack of feeling in my hand, and at one point quite severe paralysis. So the motor function has returned, I'd say about 90%, 95%. But I can't feel them. So it makes a party trick, but apart from that, it's...
So that must have been quite frightening for you as a guitarist, not have use of your fingers.
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. And it's been a huge amount of frustration and a huge amount of relearning and many thousands of hours to get it back to where it is. Things take a lot longer now in terms of having to warm up and make sure that I'm in that space, because I can't feel them. I can damage them quite easily and not realize it, and then never be able to play. So it's been a very frightening thing, but I've had a great doctor involved who's given a lot of exercises and guided that. So there is healing, but it's this came from nerve damage, mostly from how I felt. So unfortunately, that's a bit more permanent. But we'll see where it goes. At the end of the day, I think I had a choice. I could sit down and give up. And I very nearly did many times, because this is life and this is everything I want. It's my dream. So to have that feel like it's being snatched away is quite a thing. But I just decided, bugger it. Whether I can feel my hand or not, I will play guitar. And at one point I thought of trying lefty. That was a worse mistake than trying to learn to play the drums. So we'll just figure it out. If Tony Iommi, who doesn't have fingertips, can play, then I'm pretty sure I can make a plan too,
Well, for somebody that doesn't have feeling in their fingers, it doesn't show through your music, because there's a hell of a lot of feeling in your playing.
Thank you. It just feels like when I pick up a guitar, it's kind of just something that just flows. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to necessarily put all the things that's in my head out, because of the physical limitations. But there will be other ways to express it, and it will come. So it's like a flowing thing. It will happen. So I'm not too worried anymore.
You've just released a new EP called Falling Forward. Your second solo EP. The first one was Alizarin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Alizarin.
Yeah. So what mental notes did you take from the first EP into the second one?
Relax.
Yeah.
And not everything has to be perfect. Falling Forward is actually quite imperfect, because of my playing. Like I've always been quite a drill sergeant. It like needs to be perfect, needs to be on time, needs to sound. But then what happens is it starts to become perhaps a bit clinical, and it takes the emotion away. So I've always had this war inside me from having very emotional playing and then very clinical, clean playing, because I think that's important. So it's to find that equilibrium. And I think with Alizarin, I was perhaps a little bit afraid of how it might be accepted as such. And then with everything that happened last year, I took the whole rule book and I decided to throw it away and just let it flow and let it happen. So some songs are one take and that's it. And like Petrichor, for example, the fifth song, if you listen very carefully, you can hear like my chair squeak or like a funny, and it's part of it because it's more natural. And so the mental note was to stop worrying and just be.
And why did you call it Falling Forward?
Falling Forward, it's quite a long story, but in short, it's got to do with my spiritual, mental, and physical journey from last year. So being incredibly ill, I found myself sort of going between conscious and unconscious a lot, with a lot of the medication and just like not knowing where I am because my brain trying to like shut my body down, and it is crazy. So in that space, I had a lot of visions or dreams, and like it messes with your eyes a lot. So you have like these things that look like hallucination type things, but it's not really. It's just your eyes not being able to focus or anything. But all of those things that I saw and experienced, and then the whole journey of overcoming the illness and overcoming all of that and relearning everything and becoming stable on my own again. It was just a whole bunch of emotion. And I realized very quickly into the disease, like after I collapsed and I woke up, I realized the way I was living my life up to that point was trying to like please everybody else and go with the flow. And I've never been one to even think that there's a box, never mind try to fit into one. And perhaps I was trying to fit into a box, or without even realizing it. So the whole disease is actually really good because it made me face things like my fear of failure and fear of man, and like human, not man. Men are okay, so are women, but human. So it's a lot of overcoming, and then it obviously takes the journey of the frustration and all the emotion that was tied to it, the feeling of being trapped within yourself, and not being able to talk, being in that space where I'm aware of what's happening around me, but I can't communicate, and I don't know what, like you don't really know if you're dead or alive. So all of those kind of things. The album art in particular has got to do with the things that I saw, but also a bit of a metaphor for embracing your purpose and falling into it, and stop resisting, but fall into your purpose, fall forward, because you can't go backwards anymore. It happened, it's past, and you can choose to stay where you are or move on. So the whole album is just to overcome all of that and realize that, hey, yeah, this is my dream. And perhaps other people can relate with their dreams as well, but life is going to chuck things at you the whole time because it's one huge test. What the result and the answer is, we'll figure that out one day, I suppose. I don't know, maybe not. I hope so.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your gear. You have an endorsement with Ibanez South Africa. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, fantastic people. I'm so fortunate to be part of the team here. I think it's always been something that has come up in many conversations throughout the years. I've bumped into the guys many times, and there's always been a conversation that's happened, and I honestly never thought they were serious. I was just kind of like, haha, that's funny, that's nice, good joke, haha, you guys don't have any endorsees, like it's okay, thanks for the compliment and move on. And I found myself at one of their sort of open day things, and we got chatting a little bit more. But it's been a relationship that we've been building for 8 to 10 years, and we got chatting a bit. The internationals were there as well, so it just one thing led to another. We opened the door for a business talk, no longer a personal chat. So yeah, it's been just wonderful.
So tell me about the guitar, your main guitar, and the one that you used the most on the EP.
Yeah, I've got 3 which I change around quite a lot, but my main one, which I'm really enjoying right now, is an S series Axion label. So it's the S61. I can show it to you if you'd like to see it.
Yep.
This is the S61AL.
Okay, very nice.
Axion label. It's really like nice and thin because it's the S series. So very thin, very small, with Fishman fluences, which are like really awesome. Reverse headstock vibes, and then Nitro Wizard 5-piece neck, which I really enjoy. The Nitro Wizard shape, like neck shape, is very important to me. So yeah, this is my baby. I call her Toast. Don't ask. Just Toast. So this is the main one. It gives me a huge amount of variety and flavor and tones. I mean, there's so many, like, all the bells and whistles, you know. So yeah.
I believe you're currently playing through a Kemper amp profiler, which is right there. What was your tone journey like along the way? Had you tried many combinations of guitars and amps before you arrived at the Kemper?
Oof, yeah. So don't get me started on gear, Greg, because I'm a gear junkie. I love gear. I unfortunately don't have as much gear as I used to have. I relocated, so I sold a lot of stuff, and I've become tour ready, as they say. So all I need to do is close that, grab my guitar, and I'm out the door, and I can go play a gig anywhere. So that's been my goal of late. But yeah, getting to the stage is quite a journey. I think we all start off with the really like tiny little practice amps that sound like it's in the toilet or something. And then I moved on. I think you all go through the stage of like a solid state amp just because it's what I could afford. And then when I found a valve amp, ooh, life changed forever. I probably, all my back pain is from carrying a valve amp to gigs and to practice. Probably one of my most favorite, or 2 of my most favorite that I had, is that were like hard gigging amps that are rugged and like beasts. You can crank them and didn't have to worry too much about them. Had a Blue Voodoo 150 head and 65.5 combo 5150. They're stupidly heavy because I'm rather small, so these things are like this big. Now I'm grateful I don't have to carry that much or that heavy, and I've got all my tones into the Kemper. I've spent a lot of time on profiles and tweaking them, and I've recorded some of my own amps and made my own profiles. It's been cool. But this is great because if you're playing multiple genres, session work and such, you don't have to carry millions of amps around.
So this is what you use for stage and studio now?
Yeah, so this rig that you're seeing right now, some parts of it have been removed just because I'm fiddling with it. I'm always fiddling. But basically at the top I've got my in-ears and then my wireless. It's the ordered shuffles sometimes, but so it's my Sennheiser G4 in-ears and guitar wireless, which goes next to it. I got a power conditioner just because South Africa and electricity is really dodgy. So unless you want all your gear to insurance is a thing. So that's a power conditioner just to make it like normal, because our power does this. Power rack Kemper, and then that's a Focusrite 8920. So I use that for recording as well as for live. So this whole rig with my laptop is all I need to tour and all I need to record. So it's really convenient because a backpack, that box, and a guitar, and I can go. So that's really cool. And also it's really nice. So if I'm in a room somewhere, or like it's happened before at a rehearsal or before a gig where I suddenly have an idea, so all I need to do is plug in my laptop with the USB and then I can record something. So it's really convenient. So for like sound engineers, everything is labeled correctly. It's easy for them because they just go out the Focusrite into their desk and, like we set it up. So for some shows it's more extensive, but I like to try to keep it simple, and that's simple for me.
Yeah. Once all this coronavirus nonsense has gone, what are the revised plans? What are the plans and dreams for Robyn Ferguson?
To take over the world, the same plan as every day. Yeah, I'd love to get out and travel a lot, tour a lot, to learn from people. I've always said I want to play on the stages of the world, and that means with the people of the world, because I think there's so much to be learned, just with other musicians and other experiences. So a lot of travel, and then obviously a lot more music. I've already started brainchilding a couple ideas, and there's going to be a lot more coming. So yeah, a lot of collaborations. There's a few in the pipeline which I'm hoping to continue. We'll see. Corona has kind of messed everything up a little bit, but yeah, like just a lot more exciting, a lot more.
All right, Robyn Ferguson, it's been great to chat with you, and all the best for the future.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a great walk.